Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session of the 6G Forum, where we're going to be talking about telco-centric thinking and platform play. I have a couple of very distinguished and experienced speakers joining me, and we have a lot to cover. So I'm going to ask each of them to spend a couple of minutes introducing themselves, and then I'll set the framework for the discussion, and we'll move into a discussion about key topics. So let me turn it over to you, Michal, if you can start and just tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience and what you're seeing in the market.
First of all, pleasure to meet you and pleasure to be here with you. My name is Michal Sewera, and I'm running cloudification of the 5G core networks in Deutsche Telekom. Previously, I worked on an edge computing, which is, I guess, a very good buzzword for our platform level discussions today. But overall, I would say that last years I was focusing on a transition to a new cloud native operating model. And I guess it will be a very good baseline for our discussion today, all about transition to platform way thinking instead of just, yet another G in the telco vocabulary. Pleasure to be here with you.
Okay, all right. We had a preparatory session, and you talked also about your experience on the West Coast, where you were exposed to sort of a different mindset. So maybe we can bring that in as we go through the discussion topics in a moment. Over to Philippe next.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm absolutely delighted to be with you today. So my name is Philippe Ensarguet. I'm VP Software Engineering at Orange. If I can describe myself, I would say that I'm a digital native in a network ecosystem. I spent 25 years of my life in B2B and in particular in CTO position for 15 years. I joined Orange Corporate on the network side right now, I would say nearly 3 years back. My job as VP Software Engineering is really to push forward the telco to Telco move, and in particular around cloud native. And it's a topic, an area where Michal and myself are very deeply involved. I'm one of the co-writer of the NGMN Alliance Cloud Native Telco Manifesto. I participated also to the white paper that we bring to the Linux Foundation CNTI about bringing cloud native telco requirement. I'm chief architect for the connectivity convergence services platforming at Orange, and I'm also multitasking on the AI topic for the Orange Group CTO. I'm absolutely delighted to be with you for a lot of reasons, but the one that resonates the most for me is definitively about the title of the session that Ken has just introduced. Because most of the time we are, I would say, spending hours and hours talking about, I would say, the different G's that have been highlighted by Michal. But here in the title, with the platform play, I really want to emphasize that we really need to swap from a very supply-centric approach toward a demand-centric one. And it's exactly with the platforming, the heart of our discussion. You know, Ken, Michal, right now it's my 7th year in a row I'm participating in Mobile World Congress. And you know what? Outside the AI madness or the agentic AI madness stick everywhere, we are always questioning ourselves how to monetize 5G. So we are about to talk about 6G, but are we really sure that we all know at scale how we could really leverage and monetize 5G? So for me, we really need to take benefit of what happened in the past and try to move from a supply side to a demand side. And platform for me is definitively the gate to close the different position we need to address.
Great. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack there. And for our discussion, let me contextualize what we're going to talk about when we think about platforms. And I'm going to begin with a comparison of cars and telecoms networks. So inside the sporty Audi TT, this sort of two-seater soft top, and the family VW Golf, there's a common hardware platform with standard engine, transmission, and drivetrain components. Telecom's networks are similar, right? They share similar standard components. But that's all hardware, and for the 6G era, there needs to be more emphasis on software platform components and concepts. And we can learn from the market-making software platforms such as Airbnb, Amazon's Marketplace, LinkedIn, and Uber. They cater for mass markets, but they also cater for long-tail demand, and they do it at massive scale. Again, similarities with what we are trying to do in telecoms. By design, they drive engagement between external resources and customers. So think about property owners being put in touch with holidaymakers, or private cars being put in touch with riders. What these platforms do is they invert the traditional role of the firm. They co-opt large numbers of external developers, external service providers, customers, and their resources to make best use of platform capabilities that sit in the middle. And that mix is what leads to more innovation and greater value creation. Now, AI, communications, computing, and sensing capabilities, those can be 6G software platform components. And what we're here to talk about is what is the most effective way to maximize their use by external entities? We already see that starting to happen with network APIs. So, what initiatives will boost 6G's commercial prospects and also compress the revenue lead time? So, to get us going, I've outlined a definition and examples of platforms that the industry can learn from. Let's start at the baseline and ask Michal and Philippe, when you think about a platform, how do you define or how do you characterize that platform?
I may start.
Go ahead. I can see you're anxious to start, Philippe.
No, because it's okay. So for me, a platform can be really defined is like an integrated technological ecosystem that connect, orchestrates, and optimize interaction between various kind of stakeholder, customer, partners, employees, developers, and the system we want to expose. And the true idea is to bring, I would say, a creation, delivery, and capture of the value, and I would say allow open innovation. So for me, the platforming is, I would say, really the engine that allow the product to take benefits of all the services that are brought by the platform. When you emphasize about, I would say, the experience that we need perhaps to reach as new, I definitively agree with what you said related to the developers. I truly think that developers are really an interesting target. And you know, since I would say decades and decades, perhaps more in IT, but we all know that if we want to address the developer market, we need to talk and to live like the developers. So it's an aggregated ecosystem where I would say we used to move through, I would say, aggregators or hyperscalers that are exposing a part of this value that is shared. But definitively, we truly need to embrace definitively this motion if we want to, I would say, take the benefit. And it's really here where we are understanding that the cloud native, the AI, the automation, the observability, the new operating model is absolutely mandatory, because the level of automation we need in background if we want to bring the features to the IT firms, but also directly to the developer, need to live at a speed and with non-regression ecosystem that is far ahead than what perhaps we got today. So it's I can just quickly stop here and share first thought about your question, Ken.
Your thoughts, Michal?
Sure, absolutely. So first of all, I really love your example with the car industry. Really amazing. And I think that I'm always bringing this example of transition from horses to cars. And you remember 120 years ago, cars were in a very early stage. But well, at that time, it was really not so sure that the cars is, the future. Most of the car owners, they had the dirty hands, staying in the back of the of the road, and that was the sort of cost of early adopters. And I think, following this question around platforms, that we're pretty much in a similar moment in the telco industry, because let's say last 20 years we created a certain operating model, which I call please provide, and probably we will do maybe some follow-up on it later. And this model was basically assuming that an operator is someone who is defining an RFQs, running the perfect tenders with statement of compliance, picking up the right partners, actually called suppliers. And I think that this keyword also defines the relationship. And that was basically it. Now, answering your question about the platforms, I think that the platform is something where you first of all think about external stakeholders. So basically, it means the key objective is to enable certain capabilities which those external stakeholders can use. And if we think about the success story of hyperscalers, there is this famous meme flying around with difference in terms of R&D costs, now or 20 years or 10 years ago. And I think that that's really a compelling story, because they went the path with the platforms, which means if you think about stories like Google Play, that was mostly to exactly embrace certain capabilities for external stakeholders. So for me, platform is something which is not only designed for purpose of a single service like voice or data, right? We are always thinking about, I remember always discussions around MWC in a context of so-called killer apps, right? And I think that the platform is exactly not about killer app. Platform is about killer capability, which means you can turn the functionality into creativity of developers or external stakeholders, and they can leverage the capabilities of the platform. And I guess I was using this example of horses and cars, that we are pretty much in the same moment like 120 years ago with this mindset shift, because it does not just mean building a new technical ecosystem. It's also change of the mindset, where suppliers should no longer be called suppliers but rather partners, because you are building an ecosystem with partners. And the key objectives of the deployment should be also redefined. So that would be at least my view on this topic.
Okay. I'd like to now touch on your experience, both of you, with cloud native initiatives, maybe some early insights from what's happening with the Telco API situation, because this is involving like a third-party aggregation model. Essentially, what the industry is doing is saying we have some capabilities, we're going to normalize these capabilities and make them available so that they're uniform to the developer community. That's a change in mindset for the industry. So could you talk about changes in mindset, either from a kind of like a cloud native or a telco API, depending on your areas of knowledge? And how do you see that developing, and what's making it take hold? Who wants to start?
I can try to start. On the API topic, I think that related to the aggregation model that you depicted, Ken, for me, what is extremely important, and unfortunately it's not a technical point, but it means that by design, the API network model need to be thought like, I would say, a wholesale market, because you can champion in, I would say, the aggregator mode if you don't put in your core of your system the indirect sales mode. And the indirect sales mode is not always the by design or the de facto model in which telco engage on the market, because most of the time, due to their position, they are prime on everything. But we are turning software, and we need to use and to use the code from the software. And here it means that by exposing API, you can do direct monetization from your own or through an aggregator. For instance, we are under the Aduna initiative with the camera API, both on DT side and on Orange side. But we can also envisage to have a business pass through the hyperscaler. So it means that the indirect sales mode need to be deeply plugged into your system just to enable the fact that you have multiple channel opportunity that you can aggregate and bring to you perhaps new round of value.
Okay. I don't know if do you have anything else you'd like to add, Michal, on that point?
Maybe one additional comment from my side, because you raised the question about what kind of signs we see that this transformation is already ongoing, right? And well, if we think, for example, about the 5G SA, right? And I worked recently in the last years on a major transformation project here. Most of the things which are new are not focusing on the sort of killer app. I think that the key paradigm shift is exactly that the entire internal ecosystem is designed and deployed differently. If I would like to convince a customer on the street why cloud native network function is important, probably he will have not a clue, right? It's not about the customer engagement. It's exactly this previous question would you rate that was more around platform. And I think that the early sign, I mean, okay, there is a lot of criticism overall in the telco that, we are looking constantly about those, killer apps, and the things are not moving fast. But on the other side, I think that really there are a lot of positive signs on the chain. So first of all, there is the CNCF landscape and the declarative deployments, which is changing the way how we are operating the networks and deploying the networks today, which means faster with more IT-like interfaces and IT-like provisioning, and also enabling capabilities which might be used by external stakeholders. That's what was discussed before. But I also see significant change in terms of overall cooperation industry. I hate this keyword supplier, because supplier follow this principle of please provide, which I explained before. And I think that we are really entering now into a phase of more partnerships, where actually there is a co-development, where operators are also building in-house competences, hiring people, knowing how to operate the things, considering aspects like cloud knowledge and know-how as a key competitive advantage. And I think that those are early signs that we see already some changes overall across the industry, exactly towards this more platform landscape, instead of just operating network which was built by, let's call it, suppliers, right? That's at least how I see those kind of early changes.
Yeah, I think you're going in the direction of something you said earlier on about the telco business model, operating model of, please supply, which is like asking the community to supply something. And you have some ideas on how that needs to change, right? Could you sort of talk a little bit more about how that needs to change?
Well, I consider at least the role of supplier to be a partner. That's what I already said. And when I say partner, it means more co-development. In the context of cloud native operations, you have things like Helm charts, right? Which is a perfect use case for co-development between operator and partner. That's one. Second, the cloud itself. If you will follow the industry, and our colleagues from Orange, they do it the same. Cloud itself is considered as a critical asset, right? Which is also managed and deployed and operated purely by the operators, not only in the context of, installing third-party software and operating it, but also developing the things. And I guess that this is exactly the direction towards more platform way thinking, instead of just operating, a network which is a zoo of different ingredients without sort of common denominator. And if I think long term, that would be a key competitive advantage in the industry overall. Not just owning the assets, but also owning the know-how and having key competences to develop the things together with partners. And I guess, Philippe, in the context of what we're working on, it's probably pretty much the same on your side, right?
Exactly. And if I may, Ken and Michal here, what is very interesting in what Michal highlights is that whether is it for, I would say, the change from supply to demand, or the positioning of platforming, or what the API for network are changing, we all need absolutely to keep in mind that it's about a growth driver. It's not a replacement, it's a growth driver. So here for me, it's really supporting the organization transforming from linear value chain to network effect driven ecosystem. The keyword here for me is definitively about ecosystem. And it's impossible to have a talk like we have today without bringing the agentic topic. Because the way we will need to design our system to be integrated by AI agent, whether is it on read or on act and write mode, it's absolutely centerpiece on everything that Michal highlighted about the cloud native model, the intent-driven model, and all the properties we need to have from the new generation of infrastructure, about the closed loop, about the drift management, about the resiliency, about the distribution of the workloads across our infrastructure to be able to answer to the new need. I think it's very important to really keep in mind that this swap is not about, I would say, a replacement, but for me, it's truly a growth driver.
So what you're describing, in a sense, is how these systems operate in the real world. Okay, and I think when in our preparatory discussions, we talked about non-functional requirements. Can you talk a little bit about how the institutional frameworks work, like 3GPP? You talked about Cloud Native Forum. What sort of changes do we need to see to progress both functionally and non-functionally? Because this is what will speed up the deployment and commercialization of new capabilities.
Yeah, I think it's a very, very good question, Ken. And perhaps to start, and not diving into the 6G, perhaps just only scratch the surface about the 5G right now. The way we are running network function in cloud native telco is with CNF. And my usual joke that I'm making is, guy, the C for CNF is not about container, but it's for cloud native. And I think we are really in front of something that is very, very important. Turning cloud native is not about packaging an overbloated virtual machine into a container. It's a topic about how we think, how we design, how we implement, how we package, how we manage the life cycle, and how we deploy and operate. It's a whole, I would say, ecosystem. And today, what is for me extremely challenging is that we are in 2025, in few months 2026, and the speed of deployment or validation or qualification of network function is always, for me, stuck in, I would say, the old and perhaps legacy virtual mode way. And I think it's not what we need. We are really struggling most of the time with the 5G ecosystem that is not transforming at the right speed. So we absolutely need to take into account all the lessons we got from the 5G and try to reuse the best asset for the 6G. And you're perfectly right. It's really about not the functional requirements that are, for me, totally in the hand of the 3GPP, and it's definitively the role they need to play, but absolutely about the non-functional requirement. If we don't have, or if we're not able to share and bring non-functional requirement, we will keep in 2030 time to try to understand if a 6G deployment is cloud native or is not cloud native, what is the level of cloud nativity of the services. And that's why I truly think that, for instance, what's happening today into the CNTI, the Cloud Native Telco Initiative within the Linux Foundation networking is extremely important, because it's defining a home where we can define how to validate and how to assess that a network function is cloud native and having the up to the deployment. So here I really encourage everyone who want to bring their voices around the non-functional requirement. I don't know if GSMA or another standardization body or open source body could be the legitimate home, but we truly need to bring non-functional requirement, because if we don't bring non-functional requirement, all the network function of the vendor of the world could have little different understanding or interpretation about how to design and implement. And at the end of the day, it's Michal, myself, and all the colleague peers we got and the telco operators that will struggle on the field of operation.
Okay. We are running out of time. This has gone by quickly.
And
Michal,
maybe
you wanted to
one
jump
more
in.
comment from
Yes,
maybe one
please.
more comment from my side. I will really try to do a quick one, because I fully agree to what Philippe said. And let me just give a perspective of 3GPP. So you see, when 3GPP started, the key motivation was interoperability, right? And that was, of course, very important at that time, because, that was completely new industry, how you're making sure that, network to network or network to device will work. And now, look, we're in the time when AI is a hot topic, right? So just look on the silly thing like logging and data KPIs, right? If you will look into 3GPP specifications or any sort of standardizations, you have literally nothing. That's exactly what Philippe called more platform level or non-functional level requirements. And at least for us, it was a nightmare sort of to harmonize it and to consume those kind of data. And I guess more and more, if we want to shift towards the platform way of thinking, we should absolutely converge requirements also to those non-functional aspects. And for me, logging is one of the fantastic examples if you want to take a look today.
Okay. I think we're in our last minute, so I'm just going to ask you very briefly. Are you optimistic, pessimistic about how the industry is approaching 6G?
Oh, I can start with this one. I'm not optimistic and not pessimist. Here, the only thing I can share is that at Orange, we really call the industry to reassess the benefit of using a generation-based terminology, and we truly pledge for having a software-based 6G. So everyone that can help to bring reality to a true software-based 6G are more than welcome.
Okay. And Michal?
I think we had hard time to convince our customers what are the benefits of 5G, so it will be even more difficult to convince them to 6G. But I am quite optimistic in terms of what is happening overall across the industry by changing the mindset and shifting exactly towards more platform way thinking. And I guess that with the new wave of engineers and new sort of mindset, we can really do truly amazing things in the future without sticking to the world of G's anymore. At least that's my view.
Okay. So I would summarize the key thinkings here as platforms tapping into demand more than supply, and then also thinking about the ecosystem around all of this technology, making it operational, making it commercially viable, rather than waiting to develop the functionality and then figuring out the commercials towards the very end. So I think that's it. I'm expecting our Zoom call to drop momentarily, but thank you everyone to the audience for joining in. I know we have a lot of people from all over the world, Michal and Philippe, and best wishes with your continuing work, and hopefully we get to talk a little bit more in the future.
Thank you so much. It was really
Thank
a
you so
pleasure.
much.
Bye everyone.